The spotlight found him before he could walk properly. Michael Joseph Jackson stood on stage at 5 years old, his small fingers wrapped around a microphone that seemed too heavy for his hands. Behind him, his brothers swayed and sang, but the audience only had eyes for him. That voice, impossibly mature, dripping with soul, poured out of a child who should have been playing with toys. Instead, he was playing sold-out venues across America. His father, Joe Jackson, watched from the wings with arms crossed and eyes that never smiled. Mistakes meant punishment. Perfection meant survival. While other children learned their ABCs, Michael learned choreography until his feet bled. While they slept soundly, he rehearsed under the harsh gaze of a man who saw dollar signs where a son should have been. The Jackson 5 became a phenomenon, but Michael paid the price in childhood memories he would never have. At night, in whatever hotel room the tour had taken them to, Michael would press his face against the window and watch normal kids playing outside. Their laughter floated up to him like a foreign language he desperately wanted to learn. He would trace the glass with his finger, drawing shapes of the childhood he couldn't touch. His brothers eventually fell asleep, exhausted from the day's performances, but Michael stayed awake, wondering what it felt like to be nobody special, just a regular boy with scraped knees and dirty hands. The world called him a prodigy. A gift. A miracle. But Michael felt like a prisoner wearing a crown made of other people's expectations. The stage became his only home, and the roar of the crowd replaced the lullabies he never heard. He was becoming a legend, but legends aren't allowed to be children. The world had never seen anything like Thriller. Michael Jackson didn't just release an album, he created a cultural earthquake that shook every corner of the planet. The music video featured zombies, groundbreaking special effects, and dance moves that became etched into history. Michael moonwalked into immortality, and suddenly, he wasn't just famous. He was the biggest star the world had ever known. Every television played his videos. Every radio station spun his records. Every child wanted to move like him, dress like him, be him. But behind the sequin glove and the dazzling performances lived a man drowning in isolation. Neverland Ranch sprawled across 2,700 acres of California hillside, a personal fantasy kingdom complete with a zoo, an amusement park, and a private movie theater. Michael built it as a shrine to the childhood he never experienced. He filled it with carousel horses, bumper cars, and arcade games. He invited sick children to visit, watching them play with an expression that mixed joy and unbearable sadness. While they laughed on the roller coasters, Michael stood apart, a lonely figure in his own paradise. The media became vultures circling overhead. They mocked his changing appearance, whispered about his eccentric behavior, and turned his private pain into public spectacle. Michael wore surgical masks in public, not understanding why people found it strange. He slept in a hyperbaric chamber, hoping to preserve himself against time's cruel march. He surrounded himself with yes-men and handlers who protected him from reality, creating a bubble that kept the world out and trapped him inside. His only real friends were his animals, Bubbles the chimpanzee, the llamas, the elephants. They didn't want autographs or money or pieces of his soul. They just wanted food and gentle words, which Michael gave freely. At night, he would wander the empty pathways of Neverland, past the silent Ferris wheel and the dark arcade, feeling like a ghost haunting his own dream. The accusations hit like lightning, striking the same place twice. First in 1993, then again in 2003, Michael Jackson faced allegations that shattered what remained of his carefully constructed world. The trial became a media circus, with helicopters following his car to the courthouse and cameras capturing every stumble, every pained expression. Michael arrived in pajama bottoms one day, his back in agony, his spirit completely broken. The man who once commanded stadiums with supernatural confidence now looked fragile, almost translucent under the harsh California sun. His children, Prince, Paris, and Blanket, became his only anchor to sanity. He covered their faces with masks and veils, desperate to give them the privacy he never had. He whispered to them in hotel rooms and hidden estates, promising protection from the cruel world that had destroyed their father piece by piece. They called him Daddy, and in those moments, Michael felt something pure, something the stage could never give him. The acquittal came in 2005, but vindication felt hollow. Michael's reputation lay in ruins. Radio stations stopped playing his music. Endorsement deals evaporated. The fortune he had built through decades of genius began crumbling under the weight of legal fees and extravagant spending. Neverland, his precious escape, fell into disrepair. The animals were sold. The ride stopped spinning. The dream died quietly while the world looked elsewhere. Michael fled to Bahrain, then Ireland, then Las Vegas, a wandering king without a kingdom. His once powerful voice grew raspy from years of prescription medication and stress. His body, pushed beyond human limits since childhood, screamed for rest that never came. Friends watched helplessly as he spiraled, trapped in a tornado of debt, addiction, and unbearable loneliness. The boy who had everything now had almost nothing except the crushing weight of being Michael Jackson, a burden no human was ever meant to carry alone. March 2009 brought an announcement that shocked the world. Michael Jackson would perform 50 concerts at London's O2 Arena. This is it, he called it, his final bow, his last chance to remind everyone why they had loved him in the first place. The press conference showed a thin, quiet Michael, wearing sunglasses indoors, speaking in whispers. But when he mentioned performing again, something flickered behind those hidden eyes. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. Perhaps both. Rehearsals consumed his final months. Michael worked with choreographers, musicians, and designers to create a show that would transcend anything he had done before. Video footage captured moments of the old magic, Michael spinning, hitting impossible notes, commanding the stage with muscle memory that defied his weakened body. His dancers watched in awe as the legend emerged from the broken man, if only for 3-minute bursts. Between takes, Michael would sit alone, breathing oxygen from a tank, his thin frame wrapped in layers despite the California heat. But the clock was ticking louder than any metronome. Dr. Conrad Murray administered propofol, a powerful anesthetic meant only for surgery, to help Michael sleep. Night after night, the medication flowed through his veins because genuine rest had become impossible. Michael's body was failing, but the machine around him kept demanding more. More rehearsals. More perfection. More Michael Jackson when there was barely any Michael left. His children visited the rehearsal space, watching their father transform under the lights. Paris saw him smile during a particularly good run-through of Billie Jean. Prince observed the toll it took when the music stopped and reality crashed back in. Blanket, the youngest, simply held his father's hand, offering the purest love Michael had ever known. These moments sustained him, brief pockets of peace in a storm that never stopped raging. June 24, 2009, marked his last rehearsal. Michael performed Earth Song with such raw emotion that the crew stood silently afterward, processing what they had witnessed. He left the Staples Center past midnight, climbed into his car, and vanished into the Los Angeles darkness. 50 shows were scheduled. None would ever happen. June 25, 2009, began like any other desperate morning in Michael Jackson's life. He returned to his rented mansion in Holmby Hills as dawn broke over Los Angeles. His body ached from rehearsal. His mind raced with anxiety about the impossible expectations awaiting him in London. Dr. Murray prepared the medications, lorazepam, midazolam, and finally propofol, the milk-white liquid Michael called his sleep milk. It was the only thing that could silence the noise. But this time, silence became permanent. Michael's breathing slowed, then stopped. His heart, pushed beyond endurance by decades of stress and pharmaceutical dependence, simply gave up. Dr. Murray attempted CPR on the soft mattress, a medically futile gesture that wasted precious minutes. At 12:26 p.m., paramedics arrived to find the king of pop unconscious, barely clinging to life. They rushed him to UCLA Medical Center, where doctors worked frantically to restart what had already ended. At 2:26 p.m., a hospital official spoke the words that stopped the world. Michael Jackson was dead at age 50. Within minutes, the internet nearly collapsed from the surge of disbelief. News anchors struggled to maintain composure. Strangers embraced on streets across the globe, united in sudden, piercing grief. Outside the hospital, fans gathered spontaneously, holding candles and playing his music on phones and portable speakers. They moonwalked through their tears. His children lost their protector. Paris would later speak through sobs at his memorial, calling him the best father imaginable. Prince and Blanket stood silently, too young to fully comprehend the magnitude of their loss. The world mourned a superstar, but 3 children mourned their daddy, the man who sang them to sleep, who built them a fantasy land, who tried desperately to give them the childhood he never had. Michael Joseph Jackson was buried in a golden casket, still wearing the solitary white glove that became his signature. The boy who couldn't play became the man who couldn't stop performing. The child who wanted normalcy became the legend who could never achieve it. He danced for billions but died alone, his final performance cancelled not by choice but by the ultimate curtain that falls on everyone. The lonely king had taken his last dance, leaving behind music that would outlive memory and a cautionary tale about the price of being extraordinary in a world that consumes its heroes. The spotlight finally dimmed, and Michael Jackson could rest.